It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
By the way, I've noticed in the title we have here, I would substitute nice for fancy.
Fancy. Okay.
Fancy.
I like that.
Or,
fancy.
luxury, whatever. I mean, you could do it. I mean, I wish I could say naked because people like it when I say that. But it's young people should not have fancy cars.
So I feel like right now the entire crowd starts booing and people start hurling tomatoes at the Money Guy Show, because if you go onto social media, if you go onto TikTok, if you go on Instagram, if you go onto any of these places, one of the things that we are inundated with are young people driving these super fancy, super nice, super cars. And we have the opinion that not even just like the supercars, young people should not be driving nice, fancy, luxury cars.
Well, yeah, I mean, this influencer society where they're constantly just whispering in your ear, hey, if you're successful, you should look like this.
This is what success
And I
looks
think
like.
this stuff actually has an impact on what seeps into the typical American out there, is because I was shocked. We're doing some research for, we mentioned earlier, TikTok, Instagram, and some other things. Go check it out if you haven't seen some of those shorts that we're doing. YouTube is now offering shorts as well. And I'm doing some research, and I found out some surprising things, is that some of these fancy cars, luxury cars, exotics, the stereotype is that actually these cars are owned by a lot of old people. Mm-hmm. But I found out there's this trend, and I have two headlines that kind of prove this. Young people are buying Rolls Royces.
That was mind blowing to me, because that doesn't even like enter into my purview to think about the types of cars that people see. But I think you said this is one of the luxury brands that is most highly concentrated around young drivers.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of blew my mind in a little bit, because you can see the first one. This is from Motor1.com. It was, what? Rolls-Royce has the youngest buyers among all the BMW brands. It's Mini, that's BMW, and then Rolls-Royce. And then CNN Business had a headline. This is from January of this year. Rolls-Royce buyers are shockingly young. Mm-hmm. And you're like, wait a minute. Now, look. We're not telling you, because I don't want you guys feeling good that if you have your eyes on a BMW or some other luxury brand, that you're doing good because it's not at the level of a Rolls Royce. You're making yourself feel better. But it does bring the point. And look, I want you to be the best version of your financial self. And one of the biggest things you can do is, in the beginning, when you're young, decades from retirement, decades from financial independence, get as much money working for you instead of spending that money, because every dollar you have in your 20s and 30s is exponentially bigger than what you put in it. And that's why, I show this. Now, look, I know inflation's blowing everything up right now, so maybe this dollar beer has cost $3 or $4 and we can change this to $200 or $300 in the future. But I made the point when we went to a college to talk to them, is that this $1 for a 21-year-old has the potential at retirement to be worth $88. So every dollar that you buy in that luxury vehicle could be money that is part of your financial independence. And we see this a lot, because I think it's just human nature, is that, especially if you come from humble beginnings, you're like, hey, I'm going to invest in my future. I'm going to go to college. And then a lot of people will go to law school or go to be doctors, and they go to school and they defer it even more. And they get their first big paycheck and they go, you know what I need? I need to show everybody how successful I am. I need to reward myself. And they go buy the very nice new car. I have even a personal study on somebody's story I can share on somebody who made a lot of money right out of college in the IT field, and they blew up their financial life with one bad decision.
I think what's really interesting is if you read any sort of financial media, you hear all about this latte effect. Oh, well, you're blowing it because you're going out to Starbucks, or you're spending too much money on these small things. We don't think it's the latte effect that is actually devastating young people's financial lives. It's more the Lambo effect. It's the luxury car effect. It's spending too much on the big things. And we actually put together a case study to walk you through this. Now, I want to lay out for you two folks. These are two twins. They are sisters, Chloe and Zoey. Chloe decides that she's going to buy a $60,000 new car with a loan at 4% interest and put 10% down. So there's already some red flags. We'll talk about that in a moment. Zoey, on the other hand, decides she's going to buy a much more affordable car. She is going to buy a $30,000 new car with a loan at 4%. interest, and because it is a less expensive car, her down payment, which is the same down payment, is actually 20% down. Chloe is going to finance hers over 6 years. So she's going to take 72 months to get this car loan paid off. Zoey, on the other hand, is going to pay it off in 3 years because she recognizes she doesn't want to owe money any longer than she has to. Chloe, her car payment, when you amortize it, is going to be $844.84 each month until it's paid off. So $844 over 6 years. Zoey actually has a lower car payment. It's going to be $708 each month until it's paid off. But because we want to have an apples to apples comparison and we want them to have the same level of cash flow, Zoey is actually going to invest that difference, the difference in $844 and the difference in $708. And we're going to assume that she can earn 8% because these are young folks with a fairly aggressive risk profile. So if we look at Zoey's profile, how much does she actually invest? She invests $136 per month for the first 3 years, right? That's the difference in the car payment between her and her sister. But then once she pays off her car, she starts socking away the whole thing, all $845 into an investment account. And she decides, again, to keep this case study equal, she will stop investing when her sister pays her car off. So we're just trying to see what is the true cost of this more expensive vehicle. Well, after the first 3 years, she's been paying $136. She will have accumulated about $5,523. Remember, her sister has not been investing. She's had all her money going in to pay off a car, going off to pay off a depreciable asset. Well, by the time we get to the end of the 6 years, and she's been saving $136 for the first 3, and then she was saving a little over $800 for the next 3, she would have $41,000 accumulated by that end of the 6th year. So not only does she have a paid for car, she also has $41,000 that's invested and growing for her. Her sister, who bought the more expensive car, all she has is a paid for car.
Yeah, I mean, I think I love this because this is incremental decision making. I think a lot of things when you're young and you're starting out, this is 20s, 30s, and 40s and beyond, is every dollar you have, you're at a fork in the road moment of what's the best use for this to maximize my potential. And what I love when we do these side by sides, Bo, is that there is absolutely zero cash flow difference between these two individuals. It was just the incremental decision making. What do I do with my next dollar? And this is the part where young people can start at completely different levels and wealth and backgrounds. But then when they get to their 60s or 50s and people look back and go, why does so-and-so have so much more money than me? I mean, we've always made about the same amount of money. Why do they have stuff and I don't? How can they retire? Because, when somebody announces they're retiring at 55, you're like, what? What? We graduate college at the same time. This is the incremental decision-making all along the path of life. What are you choosing? What decisions of lifestyle are you making? And how is that working to make you the best version of your financial self? Bo, give them the rest of the story.
Yeah, so when you compare Chloe and Zoey, obviously there's this $41,000 difference that happened in the first 6 years, but that's only part of the story. Zoey, who decided to save that money, who decided to get soldiers in her army of dollar bills working for her, by the time she gets to retirement, without saving another dollar, that $41,000 can turn into almost $420,000. Said a little bit differently, the decision for her to buy a less expensive car, a more affordable car than her sister, resulted in over $400,000 of additional wealth at retirement at age 65. It's huge. These seemingly small decisions, remember the difference was only $136 difference per month payment, can have a huge, huge impact over the long term.